everyone, Draco Magnius here for another episode of Let's Play Omen Exitio Plague. In the last episode, we hopped on a ship after, well, let's start from the beginning. To get out of London, we hopped on a train to Liverpool and then took a ship to New Bedford, because we wanted to get away from London just in case the off chance that maybe someone was looking for us after we set the cult on fire. You know, as you do. Everyone set a cult on fire here and there, right? Right. Anyway, so we've set off on the next part of our voyage after leaving New Bedford, and we are going to see what happened, or what happens, in the mist. New Bedford is now just a thin line on the horizon. You set sail several hours ago, on course for Central America. The captain has modified the course a little, to try and bypass a strange fog which was straight in front of you. Though a little crude, your traveling companions are not half as bad as you thought at first, and the memories of your past year almost seem to belong to someone else. Your decision to continue traveling was no doubt the right one. You come across Medina on deck. He's walking strangely and his clothes are covered in blood. His wounds look fresh. Run into some fiery wench on shore, eh? Nah, that's a lot. You persuade him to come with you, and... now fumble. You persuade him to come with you to the sick bay, and with the right equipment, it takes a little time to clean and treat his wounds properly. The wounds are not very serious, but without the right treatment, he would have risked a nasty infection. Medina feigns indifference, but from the way he looks at the medical instruments, you can tell he's a little afraid of doctors. The way I see it, I mean, we could fuck with him and say, hey, you getting in a rough fight with a wench or something? I feel like that should go after treating the wounds, because he was, as it said, covered in blood. So you treat the man's wounds, and then you joke with him about it. You're leaving the poop deck, and walk towards the bow. When you see a steamship in the distance, it appears strangely motionless, as if adrift. Perhaps they need help. I was just curious where we were in regards to experience. Yeah, let's alert the captain. Captain, I've just seen a ship which looks to be adrift. They may require our help. Ilian takes out his telescope, leans on the rail, and observes the ship. Then he shouts an order. Hard to starboard! I should have backed away from the mic before I shouted that. Oh well. They'll just be peeking. You immediately change course and begin to approach the steamer. As the steamer gets bigger and bigger, you have a strange premonition. Oh no, we're gonna Final Destination up in this! Suddenly, the steamer turns on its engines, and the bow turns to face you. Elian pulls out his telescope again and looks at the steamer. Hard turn! Hard turn! The ship is full of armed men! Pirates! There we go, that's much better. The Serenity will be unable to sustain a high-speed collision with such a large steamship. It's getting closer by the minute, and if they catch you, your small cargo ship will be easy prey. There are not enough weapons on board to defend yourselves against such an enemy. Despite everyone working frantically, the pirates are still closing in. There's a sudden whistle and the crack of splintering wood. They have started firing. I mean, this chapter is called Mist. Going into the fog might be a bad move. But fuck it. The only other alternative is fighting these fucking pirates. So, my choice here is, do I want to fight armed men that are probably going to beat the ever-loving shit out of us and take all of our stuff? Or do I want to deal with potential eldritch horrors beyond comprehension? Sanity would say deal with the pirates. But on the other hand, it's much more fun to deal with eldritch horror. I mean... No, I meant what I said. Captain, we won't survive a direct attack. We have to get into the fog bank. It's our only chance. The captain nods, and looks at the pirates getting closer. You can tell he's not keen on the idea, but that he recognizes that it could be your only chance of surviving. The ship changes direction abruptly. The change in direction confuses the steamship, giving you a chance to put a small distance between yourself and it. You're heading straight into a large bank of fog, and looking around, you see Medina mumbling something and crossing himself repeatedly. Neither do the other men look happy about the decision, but since the steamship has corrected course and is once again in pursuit, no one protests. You turn back to look at the men on the steamship. You borrow an eyeglass to get a better look at them, but what you see freezes your blood. The men you see all have their forearms tattooed with eye symbols. Could it be an absurd coincidence? Or have they been on your tail all this time? The pirates, or rather the cultists, are preparing to attack. While some continue shooting, others are preparing rope lines to board any minute now. However, the first wisps of fog are already enveloping the Serenity. Defend the ship. Find refuge. I mean, I'm not exactly a fighter, given my stats. I think I should just take refuge, honestly. It'd be the safer option. If the cultists really are after you specifically, then you need to hide. You run for cover, even though you suspect it is pointless. If might give you a little time, but if the cultists take control of the Serenity, sooner or later they will find you. In the open sea, there is nowhere to run. Just before you go below deck, you turn and assess the situation, but the steamship has disappeared. The noise continues, but it is muffled. Everything has been enveloped by the thick fog. Even the far end of the bridge of the Serenity is getting difficult to see. The Serenity is now drifting undisturbed in the eerily silent fog. There is no trace of the steamship. The sound of its engine and the shouts of its crew have fallen silent. Your crewmates, too, are now silent and tense. And not for fear of the steamship. The surrounding atmosphere is surreal and disquieting. There is silence full of anticipation. Everyone seems convinced that whatever is about to happen, it won't be pleasant. Oh boy, let's see if I can read this. Estamos entrado en las fauces de un monstruo. It's been a while since Spanish class in high school. I think I read that correctly. You do not understand Medina's words, but the terror in his face is perfectly intelligible. If I could have read that a little more fluently, I probably could have given it the proper intonation, but I was struggling reading it. I tried my best. It's almost as if time itself is frozen. The fog has become even thicker, and now it is impossible to see more than 6 feet ahead in any direction. Sound, too, has been muffled. You know the captain is shouting orders from close by, but they seem distant, as if coming from another world. Everyone on deck for a head count! I need to know how many we have lost! A drop of water lands on your forehead, and then you see another between your feet. On the deck of the bridge, it starts raining. The crew assembles on deck. Somebody stumbles and swears, likely knocking into someone else. Ay, Dios mío! That one I knew. You are standing immobile, as if petrified on the bridge. You don't know which direction to go, and the rain is getting heavier. I'm gonna try. You decide to try and reach the others, but you've completely lost your orientation. You know only that you are somewhere near the bridge. You can hear voices of others. Excuse me. But through the fog and rain, it's unclear where they're coming from. The sea begins to stir, and suddenly the ship is shaken, as if by a large wave or a collision with a reef, or the pirate ship. You ascertain that it is not the pirate ship, and it cannot be a reef. You are too far from the coast. It is a wave, and as another hits the side of the ship, you see Medina tossed by its force and railing in front of you. What's better, my agility or my agility is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My observation's at a 4. So yeah, I should go for the agility option. Help. Finally, you make a move. You take a step forward, trying not to slip on the wet floor and balancing yourself against the rolling of the ship. You manage to grab a hold of your Argentine shipmate before he ends up in the brine. In these horrendous conditions, that would certainly have meant death. There are unnatural sounds in the fog, in addition to the screams of sailors. There's something weird going on, and you start thinking, feeling, that this is no ordinary storm. Quick, everyone to their stations! We must regain control of the ship! Now the captain emerges from the fog, yelling and waving his arms. He's trying to encourage the crew to action, to help him deal with the situation. Another larger wave hits the deck, knocking Elian down and dragging him away. As soon as the wave recedes, you go over to see what has happened to him. You find him some distance away, covered with blood and eyes popping. At first, you do not understand, but then you see that a wave has impaled him on a loading hook. You see its point protruding from his sternum, and you realize he has mere seconds to live. The water remaining on the bridge turns red with his blood. Madre de Dios! Medina, white-faced and terrified, is standing next to you. Also staring at your dead captain. You hear him retch and turn away fumble. You hear him retch and you turn away so as to not see him throwing up. The ship shudders again and you hear a queer noise. Next time you turn around, Medina's gone, disappeared into the fog. The screaming around you is lessened, but the ship rocks even more violently. You start moving in the fog, looking for other crew members, but now there is only silence, and the ship appears empty, as if abandoned. Another jolt, and there is a shriek of tearing. I'll start from the top. Another jolt, and there's a shriek of tearing. As you're thrown overboard, you manage to resurface despite the ferocity of the waves. If you don't act quickly, you will die. I'm gonna have to... wait, can I boost my observation yet or no? I need 50. I can't boost my observation. We're gonna go on a lesser stat, but we're gonna do it. You are thrashing your arms, keeping your head out of the water to look around. You can see a large shape in the water just ahead of you. With great effort, you manage to get close to it. It is a portion of the bridge. With the last of your strength, you pull yourself out of the water. You are desperately clinging to this piece of wood tossed about in the waves of a storm. You have no idea how long you've been holding on to this fragment of the Serenity. But after a while, the storm calms, and the fog begins to clear. You are weak from hunger and dehydration. Your grip on the wood begins to relax. But it's only then that you notice the pain in your hands. It is your final thought before exhaustion carries you away into sleep. A place to call home. Before we do that, though, Oh, I'm 2 points away from boosting my observation. Typical. You open your eyes, and you're already coughing violently. You can feel cold, hard sand below you. When your vision comes into focus, you immediately see a face looking down at you. A young, dark-skinned woman is watching you with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. She has long black hair, and her face seems to balance sweetness and strength. With some effort, you manage to sit up and look around. There's no trace of your ship or your crew. Captain Elian, Medina, and all the others are... gone. Probably dead. The woman is still watching you with intense curiosity, perhaps even a hint of suspicion. You're about to smile when her expression transforms again, and in a single, skillful movement, she twirls around at a spear, pointing its sharp tip at your throat. Oh boy, here we go. Tu es des Aratu? Oh, no wonder, it was French. She speaks French. Having studied French at university, you understand her fairly well. Well, I'm glad one of us does, Jake, because I sure shit didn't. But there's a word in her question that you don't understand. A word that doesn't even sound like French. You answer trying to pronounce the words to the best of your ability. Tell me I've been shipwrecked. Don't understand what you asked, but there's no need for that weapon. I'm gonna go with that. With another swift rotation of the spear, she hits you with the staff. I'll decide if I need my weapon. Who are you? I am British. I was on a cargo ship which was sunk by a storm. The woman is perplexed. She looks like she's trying to understand if you are lying. There were no storms here. I passed out and found myself at the mercy of the waves. I don't know how long... Look at me! The woman continues scrutinizing you. Although she does not seem entirely convinced, she lowers her spear. She then helps you stand. You're unsteady on your feet, but you are thankful that you can even stay upright. Recent events have taken their toll. You are hungry, and your throat is still burning. She beckons you to follow her, and then walks off toward the jungle, which begins immediately behind the beach. She's guiding you through a dense vegetation of the jungle, holding your hand with a grip so tight that you doubt you would be able to break free, even if you were not in your current debilitated state. After a few hundred meters, the jungle gives way to a clearing, and in it a small village. As you approach, the villagers immediately stop their activities and turn to stare at you. They exchange surprised comments among themselves. The woman is still holding your hand, dragging you through the village. She speaks again, but not in French. You cannot understand a single word she is saying, and you still feel very confused. Finally, she stops, turns to you, and goes back to speaking in French. My name is Ayada. This is my village. Many of the other villagers start crowding around you, and you begin to feel somewhat apprehensive. The adrenaline produced by waking in such strange circumstances is suddenly overpowered by your fatigue, and you feel your knees giving way. Ayada props you up to stop you from falling. You wonder if you will faint, realizing that your hunger and thirst are reaching critical levels. You're sitting on the floor of a hut, and Ayada is bringing you food. There are various tropical fruits, and wooden bowls filled with food that you do not recognize. You waste no time asking what they are, though, and begin eating and drinking with gusto. Ayada is sitting next to you, still looking at you inquisitively. She seems cheerful, as if the mere sight of you amuses her. Then her expression changes and she suddenly becomes serious. Ayada too remains silent, and then she lowers her eyes. You see her lips tremble, but you don't know if it means she's angry or about to cry. Whatever it was, Ayada soon regains her composure, looks up at you, and then speaks. This village is not free. Since they came, we have had no freedom. We do whatever they want us to do, and every month they come here to take one of us away. No one has ever come back. Who are they? Foreigners. They have weapons, and they do things. Strange things. All the villagers are scared of them, scared that they will put a curse on us or worse, so they can do whatever they want to us and no one protests. You are intrigued. It certainly is a strange story, and you have many questions, but just then a young boy about 12 years old enters the hut and comes close. Ayada smiles. Jake, this is the village chief's son, Farah Tuheava, but everyone calls him Fuego. You shake hands with Fuego and discover that he too speaks French. And for more information about these invaders, get to know the boy Fuego. Invaders. Follow me. Ayada silently walks off toward the edge of the village. You follow her and notice that Fuego is walking behind you. Ayada turns and gives him a look, silently giving her consent for him to follow too. You both continue following her until you are at least 100 yards outside the village. Ayada sits you and Fuego to follow suit. My people, our people, are terrified and superstitious. They are completely at the mercy of these foreigners. They believe them to be something like sorcerers, but I think they are only men. I have followed them, watched them. I didn't see what they do with the people they have kidnapped. But I saw them performing strange rituals. What kind of rituals? I'm not sure. They meet at a cave in the middle of the forest, wearing a sort of skirt and masks. They all have the same strange tattoo on their arms. It looks like an eye. I never dared to get close, so I don't know what they actually do during the rites. But I did see that they had brought with them the men which they kidnapped from the village. You are stunned speechless. Is it the cult here, too? But how is it possible? You attempt to conceal your reaction, but Ayada watches you closely. She pauses for a moment, and Fuego looks at her. You can see where Ayada is going with all this. She wants to rise up against the cult, and finding no support from the people of her village, she sees you as a possible ally. You want me to help you? Ayada silently nods her head. Fuego does the same. Hold on. They must be stopped! But our people are too afraid. I need to know what they're doing with the people from the village that they have taken, then either fight or escape. Then Ayada tells you about a small island nearby where the villagers could hide if things go awry. I'll help you however I can. Ayada smiles, a smile that makes you feel that in another situation, and in another time, she would have thrown her arms around you. Fuego, though, jumps to his feet and begins to shake about in a sort of dance, accompanied by low-pitched yelps, which you assume is there to be a celebratory tradition of their tribe. You go back to the village. Fuego continues his dancing, even as you're walking back to the village through the jungle. You decide to learn a little more about him. So, you're the chief's son. You are an important person, then? My father is important. I'm only a boy, for now. You follow in your father's footsteps, then? You seem rather clever. I have to be clever if I'm going to follow in my father's footsteps. You and Ayada laugh. You're very impressed by this boy. I have no doubt you will. You must be clever yourself, then. You burst out laughing again. Ayada smiles too, but her face has darkened again. Do not tell anyone that I spoke to you, at least for now. Eye on the island. Let me just take a quick check. Whoa, I've got 84? I did not realize. Well, let me buff my observation real quick. You know, I should probably boost fighting at some point, since we're going to get into a scuffle, probably. You spend the entire next day with Ayada and Fuego. Fuego has taken it upon himself to acquaint you with the fishing traditions of the village. He takes you to meet with a group of fishermen who have just returned from the sea. Fuego proudly... that was a voice crack. Fuego proudly teaches you the local names for the fishing equipment, as well as all the fish and other animals that fill the nets, which are thrown from their boats, which are small dugout pierogi? Is it a pierogi? Like the pasta dish? The women of the village take the catch and prepare it for the meal. Agility, help with the fisher. Fuck it, I have good agility. The nets the men are using are quite different from any that you have ever seen. And you haven't done much fishing before anyway. Nonetheless, you soon get the knack of throwing the nets and pulling them in without losing the fish they contain. Returning to the shore, you give them a hand unloading and moving the catch. Seeing you helping out, Ayada smiles. A large fire is lit, and all the women are busy cleaning the fish and crustaceans caught by the men. When you notice a certain tension in the air, there are noises coming from the jungle. Ayada, wide-eyed, alerts you and Fuego. You must hide. Don't mind me boosting my fighting because I'm probably gonna need it. I'm gonna lose out, like, getting one of my other stats, but I think it was important to get my fighting up, just in case. Armed strangers with pale, yet tanned skin and European features enter the village, and corral its inhabitants together with angry and threatening commands. They start examining the villagers. From behind the hut where Ayada has taken you to hide, you are able to see the whole scene. You assume they've come to kidnap someone, as recounted by Ayada. You raise yourself up a little to get a better view of what's happening, but you accidentally knock over a fishing spear that had been left leaning against the hut, making a noise. Well, fuck. Who's that? Is someone there? He speaks in French. Another man approaches the hut where you are hiding. Ayada is frozen on the spot. But then Fuego rises to his feet and walks calmly into the clearing. You are shocked and about to say something, but Ayada gestures for you to stay silent. What do we have here? A little boy! Did you think you could hide from us? The cultist smacks Fuego's face, but the young boy hits him immediately back. Unfortunately, his strike has little effect on the man, and after a second blow, Fuego is left reeling and bloody on the ground. The men of the village are immobile, terrified. Gentlemen, I'd say we already have what we came for. The man makes signals to the other cultists. They grab Fuego's arms and start dragging him away easily despite his resistance. Ayada jerks forward and is about to shout, but this time it is your turn to silence her. By putting your hand over her mouth, for only a second she struggles, then realizes that you are right. You feel a cold tear fall on the hand covering her mouth. The cultists leave the village, taking Fuego with them. You're still holding Ayada, even though she stopped struggling long ago. You know full well that you could not have done anything. In fact, you would probably have made the situation worse if you had reacted just now. Despite this awareness, you cannot help but feel like a coward. The cultists have gone. You come out from your hiding place. We will get him back. How? Just us? You don't know them, what they're capable of. Ayada is tearful and angry. For help, and I'm ready, but we need to think of a plan. You're wrong, I know them. All too well, in fact. You know what? Reveal. What do you mean? I've come across this cult before. The ship I was traveling on was sunk due to them. Have you got any ideas then? Allies, there has to be someone willing to fight back. Think. You try to come up with a plan of action, but quickly realize that you do not have enough information. Allies. I don't know, maybe it's possible. Where are they? I have watched them, followed them. Their camp is on the opposite side of the island, and there is a cave where they do their rituals. You have a starting point at least. You will need to see it for yourself, get a better idea of the situation, that you may make a plan of attack. You will also need to find out if there is anyone else willing to help you, and Ayada, or if you are alone. Now, you just have to make a start. The cult camp is the best place to start your investigation, knowing your enemy before you start thinking about how to knock him down. There must be someone willing to help you. Convince the villagers to follow you completely may not be completely useless. The cult's cave could contain some clues about their goals. You better take a look. So my choices are the camp, see if we can get anyone together, or check the cave where they do their rites and rituals. Let's start with the camp. Like they said, it's a good starting point. You are walking around the huts, watching the villagers in their activities. You are a stranger amongst these people, but at the same time you feel no negativity, discomfort, or hostility from them. Despite not being one of them, they do not seem to be scared of you. Rather, they treat you as an honored guest. I'll need to have a clearer picture of the layout of the cult's camp. You are explaining to Ayada that in order to rescue Fuego, and maybe the other villagers who were captured before your arrival, you will need more information about the enemy camp. Tonight. When twilight arrives, you see Ayada heading away from the village, giving you the briefest of meaningful glances, telling you to follow. Again, you walk for what seems like an eternity, but eventually, she motions for you to slow the pace. You understand that you are near. You're in a small, rocky outcrop, hidden by the trees. At the base of the rocks, you can see the camp. It seems to be mostly tents, although there are some huts made from wood and corrugated iron. They look to have been built only recently. There they are. You scan the camp with a close attention, but so far you can see no sign of the cult. It looks like just a normal military outpost. You wonder if you have not been in too much of a hurry to connect them to the London cult. You see various men sitting around the fire in the center of camp, eating a meal. Others are moving around the camp. Even from a distance, you can tell that most of them are white Europeans, as you already saw in the village. It must be hot near the fire, and many of them are bare-chested. By the dim light from the fire, you can see a dark shape on their wrists, but you don't need to get any closer to know that it is the cult's eye tattoo. When they have finished eating, instead of extinguishing the fire, some of the men bring more wood and start building up the fire, increasing its diameter and intensity. After a few minutes, 2 men come out of one of the huts carrying a dead body. As they approach the pyre, you are able to get a better look at the body. It's one of the villagers. The body is covered in pockmarks, and despite the fact that you cannot be sure from this distance, you suspect they are the familiar marks of the disease. They throw the corpse onto the fire. Ayada turns her head away, her hands closed in fists, shaking with horror and rage. Ayada struggles to contain her pain and anger, and you can see straight through her seemingly calm exterior. For now, you decide it's better not to say anything, and turn back into the forest in silence. Was that useful for your plan? You nod. Now that you know exactly where the prisoners are kept, you can start formulating a plan to rescue them. Do you mind me? Okay, I'm gonna need 60, so there's still a ways to go. I could buff fighting more and level everything, but I'm going to hold off. Alright, next is allies or to look at their cave. But with that, I think we're going to end this episode here. In the next one, we're going to continue our plan to the cave or to rally the villagers. We'll have to decide. See you guys then.